Good morning, Internet. Thought I'd do a follow-up video on the sour gas boiler and its startup procedure. I've got this one cleaned out. Everything's in about that 70 to 50 degree range. When you're starting this up, you want to have about 200 kilograms of water. That leads to 50 per room. I've got some space heaters set up down here to help make that aqua tuner at the top work harder. So let's connect those. We will set the temperature on this down to negative 175. And then we're going to dump some oil up here in the top. Up here we want to get about 50 kilograms per tile, so about 100. If you have too much water or too much oil, then this initial cool down period won't generate enough heat. And if you don't generate enough heat up here, then you're fighting trying to get the system started. So it's about 30. We'll turn these off. So we'll keep an eye on what the temperature in here is. Obviously it gets up to steam rather quickly. This side, you want to pre-fill it with some petroleum. It's going to take a long time for it to get up to the 403 degrees it needs in order to convert. So we'll only be doing small batches. In fact, what we'll probably do is set this up to some... because we don't want to send any oil through until this gets up to 403 degrees. As soon as this hits 650, it'll start injecting heat into this side. It's just going to take a while to heat up all that petroleum. The reason you want to preload this is otherwise it'll just take forever at 5 kilograms per batch to fill this up and get the counterflow going. You want to get it close, but not so much that it overfills until it's warm enough. As we can see from this, we got a ways to go. So we'll pause it and just wait for the heat to be generated. That's about 2 cycles later. We are coming up on 370 degrees. Once we hit 403, this will start converting to petroleum, but our goal is to reach that 542. So already we have our supercoolant down to negative 60. We're trying to get down to 175. Our space heaters are obviously not keeping up with the aqua tuner, but they're not supposed to. They're just supposed to slow it down so that we can get more heat out of this side. And as we're doing this, we'll see we're just about to hit 390, and yet we're still about 10 degrees cooler at the oil. Just takes a bit to transfer the heat through. But I find this design, once you get through the initial startup procedure for the sour gas side, it stabilizes quite quickly. The petroleum boiling side takes a lot longer to get going just because you need so much more heat to get this up to temperature and to get the counterflow going. Alright, there goes our oil over to petroleum. Now we gotta ramp it up to 550 degrees. But to get the counterflow efficiency on the petroleum boiling side, just takes longer. But since it is the waste heat generated by the sour gas, and once this gets going, it's got 10,000 extra watts to throw at it, it's not that big of a deal. So all told, we ended up with about 120 kilograms of petroleum on that side, and about the same on that side. Anywhere 50 to 60 per tile is enough to fill the column and start the condensing once we get there. Got about another 100 degrees to go. And I think using space heaters down here is just easy. Yeah, they don't produce a whole lot of heat, but we're not trying to keep this warm. We're just trying to inject enough heat to slow down this supercoolant. Because without these, we'd already be down at condensation point without having created the sour gas in the first place. And as we get closer to 550 up here, then we can start even deconstructing this. They've already done their job. We've got another 70 degrees to drop. By that point, we should be above 550. So, let's start getting the dupes over here. Make sure we're not taking out any plumbing in the background. Yep. All right. Deconstruct buildings, deconstruct background buildings, and power wires. Yeah, and whenever they get here, that's fine. We're already up to almost 500 degrees. Cooling wise, we got another 70 to go. Oh, there they are. Should be able to reach all of that. And then we'll grab. Set to disconnect. Can you guys reach it? And it doesn't look like it. Alright, need a couple of ladder segments. And down here, the insulation isn't super important. Probably need a ladder segment over there. Just trying to keep the cold in. Temperature-wise, we're just about to hit it. So at 542 is when this should flash over. And you see a bit of it goes, that was about half of it. There's a difference in specific heat between petroleum and sour gas, so it actually drops the temperature. Okay, so now we have sour gas. We're gonna wait till that gets up to about 550. Then we can start turning on the oil again. Cooling wise, we're only at about 140 negatives, so we still got a bit to go before we start condensing. Condensation of sour gas is at negative 161, so we got to get to 163. I don't know if my dupes can even get to Ignis Rock on this map. Whatever, it's in debug. Just finish that off for him. Alright, so now this door's starting to become active, only injecting heat as needed. Once this room gets up to 650, that'll start dumping excess heat over here into the petroleum. Pressure-wise, this is just going to keep climbing, but it'll stabilize once it condenses. So right now the heat is really hot all the way down to here. And we'll see once the counterflow starts happening that it actually cools up to about this level. So we're just about to hit the condensation point. In fact, on this side, yep, 162. So this should start condensing here any second. Now when this first starts condensing, some of the natural gas, some of the methane might flash to natural gas. And that's okay as long as there's not too much. It'll get deleted when it gets up to the liquid vent. And there we go. So now the counterflow is starting happening on this side. This one obviously is second in line, so it's going to take a little bit longer. And there it goes. You can start to see that counterflow starting up. And as these counterflows get settled in, it becomes more efficient. Again, this design will run 14 natural gas generators flat out, which is just a ton of power. So yeah, that one's just about settled. This one's getting there. Look at the gas overlay. Yeah, so a little bit of natural gas comes up, but as long as it's only one tile, once it gets to the liquid vent, the game just deletes it. It doesn't want to have liquid and two types of gas in the same place. And now it's all settled out. So that is the startup of the sour gas boiler. On the petroleum side, this is starting to suck the extra heat over. So each time this room gets up to 650, it'll shoot some heat over to here. You see we had a little bit of oil left in the system. Yeah, so we just hit maximum cool down. On the supercoolant, it's got to wait till it gets back above 175 before it'll inject more heat. So there you go for the petroleum boiler side. As this produces extra heat, once this gets to 403, you can reconnect the oil. It'll start sending in batches based on the automation and what you have this buffer gate sent to. So once it gets enough counterflow going, then you can just flip it on and let it rock. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have questions or want to look at something else in oxygen not included, let me know.